the bottle and push the throttle. I got 5 model chicks, 5 bottles of Chris and break the bottle and push the throttle. I got 5 model chicks, 5 bottles of Chris and break the bottle and push the throttle. I got 5 model chicks, 5 bottles of Chris and...
What up, party people? We're back again, the world-class Fightcast with producer Radar Theory. Say yo, Radar.
What up?
And I'm here with a very special friend for our very special first local broadcast of the world-class Fightcast. I'm super excited because we're in our second season and we've had some amazing national and international guests, from a Brazilian top team and American top team founder, Master Ricardo Laborio. We've had Dr. Stephanie P. from South Florida, holistic medicine doctor, Chinese herbalist and medicine. We've had Coach Steve Nelson, World Sambo team member, as well as one of the founding fathers of mixed martial arts in the country. All kinds of different people. I've been stoked to, we really love to mix it up. And we had the General come on, my former music manager. He's actually still my manager, but I say we're more friends than music management at this time. And he also managed Jose Feliciano, who wrote Chico and the Man and Feliz Navidad. And he had some interesting words to say about their pandemic. And that video got pulled twice, which I'm super stoked to talk to my friend today, because he's involved in local politics and a dad. He's actually a CJJ dad, a wrestling dad here at our academy here at Abilene, Texas. And this is our very first local show. Y'all give it up for a man of the people, a political activist. We said we were going to use that word, but I like the intrigue.
That's right.
I like the intrigue. My friend Joey, Senator Lopez Devora.
Hey, so good afternoon, Abilene and worldwide. So it really truly is an honor to be here. I do anything, and people have been trying to talk to me for a while, and I will say on the record that you will be one of the few people that I talk to and support. So, I met you about 7 years ago. We were at playing music. I was playing my little music over at Mezzamese, and I ran into this guy, and then it turns out we had a lot in common, and then the rest is history as far as
Right.
being a wrestling dad and a father of 4, a stepfather, a father, and just a person that wants to
Really
do
cares
better,
about the community.
better myself
Right.
and better the
Yeah.
community. I love this city. I'm a lifelong resident of Abilene, so I serve, and that's what I'm here for. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, you're also, I think, the leader, if not the organizer, of Abilene's most famous drum circle. How did that get started, man? That was such a cool thing to go downtown and see a lot of people drumming and having a good time. And I always liked that energy from back in my Oklahoma university days. There was being on Big State University, got a lot of free-spirited people. And how'd that get started?
Yeah, so I was, I bought a cajon in 2006. I saw
That's that little box.
Yeah, little
that
box
sit
drum.
on top of.
Yeah, and I bought it. As you know, I've played trumpet since I was 12, but music has been a hobby for me. And I bought the cajon, and there was different things I did with it. I played at church actually, and ironically, I played at a Catholic church, which was at that time somebody playing a cajon in a choir in a Catholic church was relatively new. And then I think I did okay at it. I'm not a drummer by trade, or I didn't study drumming, but it was all just feel. And a few years later, a buddy of mine, Leo Flores, I met him, and he was from Seattle. He was a member of the Washington State college band, but Seattle is it's a really progressive environment where drum circles were heavy. And he goes, hey, I was drumming on my drum, he was drumming on his, and he goes, hey, why don't we start a drum circle? And it hit the internet, or it hit Facebook, and we went out there, and we went out downtown Abilene, up here in Minter Park, and brought several drums, and people started listening, and there was this one little guy named Van LaBus who he passed away a couple years ago, so God rest his soul. Van LaBus, we love you. Van,
what a great name, Van LaBus.
Yeah, Van LaBus actually had a drum circle in the 80s and the 90s in Abilene. And so when he heard us drumming, he was over across the street at the Center from the Contemporary Arts, and he heard us drumming, and he came out and he goes, "Oh my God," he goes, "I did drum circles in Abilene in the 80s and the 90s," and he goes, "I want to join in." So Van came over with his drums. We had about 4 or 5 homeless people listening to us, so we gave them a drum, and before you know it, the whole thing became a little bit magical. And that is the goal of a drum circle, is the spontaneity of it and the improvisation. So
some of that hippie crap.
Yeah, so it's not rehearsed at all. What you feel. You could drum your heartbeat. Somebody else could drum their heartbeat. 4 or 5 people drum their heartbeats. It turns into something magical. But
what's so cool about that, because one, that's probably how honestly I first caught wind of you, was not through politics or music or any of the other things that you love, but was through the drum circle. And I found that very interesting, because when I moved back from South Florida after living there for almost 20 years, and I've been here for about 10 years now. I moved back in 2011, so we're moving past that. Oh, maybe 2012, but 10 years. And the Abilene I remembered from the late 70s, 80s, and then I went to OU in 91, which is around when I left. And it was a different Abilene. And I saw a lot of things that had changed. And I was really happy to see those changes, yet I still caught the wind of the past and some of those old ideas and, that old energy. Yet it was definitely, things had become a lot more progressive. I remember being at Mezzamese, which is one of my favorite places. It's one of my favorite places to go back in the day when I would visit. I always come in town 2 or 3 times a year for jiu-jitsu seminars and things like that, visit the folks for holidays. And I saw this kid, Andrew Holmes, playing some Damien Rice at Mezzamese, and I just thought, wow, because I was so used to only hearing things like The Crew or, some heavy metal or, just something that was very kind of Abilene. If people don't know who aren't from Abilene, Abilene has always felt like, to me, it was always kind of 20 years in the past from the rest of the country, which,
right.
It's got its good and it's got its good and bads on that. Good because it's, still kind of small town America. A lot of people know each other. It's very community oriented, which is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And then also, some of the old ideas that weren't as progressive. And what I saw here in the last 10 years was a lot of the children, or even the grandchildren of the people who were running things back then, have taken over office and are running businesses all over town. Guys like Tim Smith, guys like you, guys like Mayor Anthony, which I think is so cool because all of us are from that same North Abilene area. We
North 7th and Bowie.
Yeah, North Crockett, baby.
Yeah.
I don't know where Anthony grew up, but he was a little bit older than me too. He was kind of in the Tim Smith, Abel Pena. I knew a lot of gymnasts that were upperclassmen because we were on the same team. But I just think that's super cool though, because one of the things I love to see about America, and me being an immigrant myself, I have such a great immigrant story. Literally going from no electricity and water in the jungles of Thailand to West Texas in the late 70s, 1976 was the exact date. And just watching this town evolve and grow and change from an immigrant's perspective. Like I literally would see people were literally calling us chinks and throwing rocks at our house where me and my mother lived in this little efficiency on Grape Street, to where most of the people today are very kind and loving and open to people of all different cultures, which is another amazing thing that I see. You see people from all over the world living in Abilene now, and I think it's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm sure there's a little of that private, closed-off sector that wishes things were still the way they were, but that's just not natural. Things in life change, and it's better not to fight with them. It's better to learn to flow and work with them. That is how most cultures and societies that have grown and prospered, it wasn't from the fighting. If you watch like Gangs of New York and how mad they were that all the Irish were showing up, They didn't stop it. They couldn't stop any of that. What they, the people who progressed and helped grow America, they worked with it. And I think that's one of the things I love about you, because we were just talking earlier about how, the whole political landscape, there's a I'm not even sure who it is, the they. We always talk about they, but there's this proponent of they that is always trying to make everyone pick a red side or a blue side or a left side or a right side, when I, for one, believe that most civil, loving, family-oriented Americans are somewhere in the middle. They believe in family, they believe in values, they believe in commerce, they believe in a free market, they believe in people having the opportunity to go out and create their own life and pull themselves up. And that is most of the people I know, but I noticed that media and a lot of things can get people, really. I had so many friends on both sides that had their panties in a bunch this last 4, 5, 6 years, because of all the propaganda and all the stirring up that's done. Because if they got you fighting each other, you're not watching what they're doing.
That's right.
And do you see that at all?
Oh yeah, you and I have talked about that a lot, and it goes back to tribalism, and tribalism is everywhere. It's not just in Abilene. People talk about divisions in Abilene, but it happens in every city across America, whether it's a small town or a mid-sized town or a major metropolitan area. It happens, in smaller towns, people are more aligned with the status quo, whether it's a extreme, I hate to use the words red and blue as far as, politically, but society has pulled us into, you're either red or blue, and a lot of people think, well, I've got to follow what the Republicans say, I've got to do what the Democrats say. Whatever happened to the middle? And we're just so tribal. And
what was my saying that we were going to do a shirt of?
It's
compassion over tribalism.
Yeah, well,
right?
Or something along the lines of humanity over tribalism. And that's what it's about.
Which is basically means put people first. Don't put party ideas first, because it's people that we all care about. And whether you're on the left or right, people in the same family have people on different political views. Do you all of a sudden don't like your aunt or your uncle because they? And yet people were actually fighting, and some of them physically, because that's how much they have you conditioned.
Yeah, that's right.
That if you don't agree with me, you're my enemy, because that is kind of the ideology that's sold to us from very young.
Yeah.
And it's something, I feel like something's got to be done. I've noticed a lot of people have educated themselves, and what I saw a few years ago isn't as much. Like I used to tell people all the time. They tell me left, right, and I'd be like, man, two wings on the same bird, yo. And people would be like, man, you're crazy, da da da. And now I got friends in the Red Dirt music community that are saying the same thing, posting the same thing, because I know people are smarter than the government and a lot of people give us credit for. And they weren't going to fool us that long before we started to realize, oh, you're just playing us. I like to use the analogy, good cop, bad cop. They're
right.
Good cop, bad copping us, and they've been doing it for years. Why? Because they want a reason why they can send these jobs off, so corporations and multi-billionaires, which can have the right to move these jobs into other more undeveloped countries where people will work for $3 a day, or take our military to go protect poppy fields in Afghanistan, so big pharma. Oh, this is going to get us pulled again, man, this kind of stuff. But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend to skirt around the truth so that we don't hurt people's feelings. You want a copy of the video, message me. I'll send you a direct copy if it gets pulled. And like Radar said too, we're going to be on so many platforms soon, they won't be able to pull them all. We'll shoot you a link. And if someone assassinates me, if someone Tony Bourdain's me, you know what's going on. Plus, that's going to be hard, man. I'm a ninja cowboy. I literally can kill people with these two fingers right here. But my point is, there's so much been pulled over our eyes as a country and as Americans that we need to wake up. We need to quit pretending that there's a red team and a blue team and everybody on the red team's evil and everybody on the blue team's evil. That's nonsense, man. Even Joe Rogan, who I know a lot of men who know common sense, No, Joe has said, man, I'm moderate about some things and I'm conservative about some things. I'm a normal American. I'm in the middle. But that doesn't put people in a panic. That doesn't distract people. That doesn't make you go out and buy stuff because they keep you in fear. Why? Because people who are afraid need to squelch that fear with consuming. Oh, I need 10 tacos. I'm nervous. I need to go buy some new shoes because I need a distraction from this stuff I don't want to pay attention to. And it's all a ploy to control people.
When do you think things changed as far as like society? Like, back in the 50s and 60s, it seems like things were a little bit more middle ground. We were more productive as a nation. The middle class had more power than they do now. Right now we have a growing middle class, but we have so much less power, especially the lower middle class. I mean, they take it on the chin. But when do you think it changed?
Around the time he said, I think that for the most part, the government, since 1776, we were all kind of pulling in the same direction. I mean, the first thing you got to remember, this whole country was built on war, freedom, and dominance. And I'm just pulling this out my butt. I'm just thinking right off. That's not even a rehearsed thing. And the reason is, we had to fight England for our freedom to be our own sovereign nation. We were all already fighting anyway. We were in a culture of fighting during that time. Everybody was fighting everyone for dominance. We had to fight all the Native Americans here to take their land so we could cultivate it. We had to dominate our surroundings so that we could prosper and the country could be created into what it is. And the past isn't important because I believe something I've been saying lately. Don't look back; you're gonna hurt your neck. You can't do a lot about the past. Right now, we're here right now. We need to be focused on what can we do right now, right here. And that's one of the reasons why I love talking to you, because I've watched you online catch a lot of flack because, this area, Texas in general, is predominantly a conservative, area. So a lot of people fall onto that red label, even though I have a lot of friends that personally, they know the difference between good stuff on both sides. They're not so like, hey, if it ain't red, it ain't right. If it ain't blue,
that's right.
And I have a lot of my friends are like that, and you're kind of in that way too. Except you have definitely been a voice for more of those left kind of things. And I've watched you debate, you and Ben Gonzalez. Shout out to Ben and 360 and those guys. And it's okay because you know what? It's okay. What's one of our blessings as Americans? We're allowed to say something. We're allowed to speak our opinion even if it's wrong. That's why I'm so blown away that we got 1984 on YouTube for our second podcast with the General. Because that ain't right, man, to get George Orwell like that.
Yeah.
I like my references, so I had to make another one.
Yeah.
But
that's right.
it's because that is where things get weird.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap if some conservative wants to say, well, I believe that everyone should have guns. I do too, personally. But when someone who's liberal said, well, I don't think everyone should have guns and there should be, and I'm okay with you not agreeing with me. Like, I'm okay with it. Why? Because I'm a grown person. And it's okay for other people to not agree with me about stuff. But when companies take your video off because they don't like your opinion or it doesn't match that scares me. Because not only you infringe it upon my rights and what the country was built on, but now you're entering into this. You're changing what the country was. And I'm nervous because I've noticed recently, because I started paying more attention. I'm nervous about what the country is becoming.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you say that, because the media, the mainstream media in general, has lost a lot of power because of technology and things like this, what we're doing.
The spin.
Because a lot of newspapers are going out of business. A lot of networks are going out of business because they don't have that advertising. What's happening is Facebook is taking control of all the advertising. YouTube is taking control of all the advertising. So, in a sense, Facebook and Google, YouTube have more power than any government, almost to the level of what the government has, the power to do. And there's so many conspiracy theories that is the government in cahoots with Facebook and vice versa. I hate to use the term conspiracy theorist. I think Oliver Stone said that on his podcast because he likes to use the term truth seeker. And I think that's what I do is, I am a political person, but at the end of the day, I care about you. I care about the working class. Everybody that has to get their ass up every day and go to work and have those hard weeks when you're having to come home to kids, hungry kids, and feed them and take them to practice, and you're just so exhausted. Life has become such a grind. There's no time for vacations. There's no time for this. Everybody's overworked and underpaid. So a lot of times when I post things, it's for the good of my friends. I don't think I have many enemies, but there might be people that may think that I don't have their best interest at hand because I may post something from a Democratic source. But I post stuff, there's several, Republicans I support. And, like I said in the beginning, I'm a middle of the road guy. I've voted for Republicans before, I voted for Democrats. But I want to bring America, Abilene, back to the middle. And for the most part, I think that Mayor Williams has done a good job of that. There's more diversity on city boards. I was a member of the Civil Service Commission. I'm on the street maintenance board now, but we have a diversity of folks now that are applying for these boards, and that's open to the public. There's so many keyboard warriors out there talking about how the streets are bad. Instead of complaining about it on Facebook, get out there and do something about it. Like you reached out to me, I'm going to make sure that your pothole is taken care of. And there's actually, we brought up this real quick. There's an app on the iPhone store, the Google Play store that you can download. Go to the City of Abilene website. If you see an issue with the street in Abilene, Texas, if you see a pothole, you can report it, take a picture of it, and somebody from the city will go out there and get that addressed. And you guys ever have issues,
right.
You can reach out to me personally.
I definitely feel because I've been here for 10 years, I guess, so I definitely see the approachability of this last administration with Mayor Anthony, and I love that because, like I said, you're gonna have your faders. I call them faders now, not haters, because they're really fans. They're not, they're people that are following you or commenting about you because they appreciate something that you're doing so much that they want to put their 2 cents in too. And they may not agree with you, but they're doing it because you're doing it. They're fans first.
That's right.
And if it's brought to me in a responsible, respectful way, I hear people whether they agree with me or not. Like, I really try to focus on the people that are out there doing things, being positive, taking action, and that's one of the things I love about you, because I tell people all the time, what are you doing, with your complaints on social media? You're not doing anything. If the only thing you're doing is you're decompressing yourself, and if that's what you need, great. Your little 40 friends or whatever want to hear your ideas and it helps you feel better at the end of the night, awesome, do it.
That's
but there's
right.
things you could actually be doing to help people if you're so concerned.
Exactly.
If you're so angry and so upset, come and help. Come do. There's so many boards and ways you can actually get out there and help people. That's why in my life I focus on what I know, and I'm a martial artist and I'm a musician and an artist. And so what I want to contribute to Abilene, and for a fact, because you've been there, I've contributed more of a focus on singer-songwriters to the Texas Songwriters Championship that we're entering our 8th year this year. Last year we had our 7th statewide search and finale at Doc's Bar and Grill, where we had country legend Doug Stone headlining.
That's right.
And this year, who knows what it's going to be, but I've helped lift that artist's voice. I've helped to lift, and then bringing not just world-class mixed martial arts. I have my sensei from Brazil here right now.
Nice
for
guy.
the very first, Master Cunha, the very first authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu family to move to Abilene and set up shop to teach authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're bringing the very first wrestling team. We've been building it for several years now. Abilene's never had wrestling. Not all of the kids are 6'4" and 250 pounds. Some of them are 4'6" and 50 pounds, and they need an opportunity too, and it's a sport for both the sexes. I want to contribute how I can contribute. Now, maybe you're a cook, maybe you're a mechanic. There is a way for everyone to contribute back to the community, and I do believe in that. That's why the podcast is like this, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Focus on yourself first. Make yourself the best you can possibly be, and then look at your friends and family, and then help the community, and then keep reaching out like that. Just as a musician would build a fan base that way, you help yourself and your community and the world that way. But complaining all the time, being angry and upset and just posting ugly things online and sharing memes that you agree with is doing nothing except making you feel better, which is
That's
actually
right.
a good thing. But there's so much more you can do than self gratification online, because you don't. Yeah, you saw me. I did the masturbation hand because that's what they're doing. It's social media posting masturbation. There's no true uplifting of themselves or their group or their community. And if you want to you want to separate people to help, that's not how it works. You bring people together to help.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've stopped doing is I've stopped arguing with people on Facebook. I know
Wasting
I'm
time.
notorious. It's a big waste of time. Instead, the way I got started in the community, either as an organizer, as an activist, or whatever you want to call it. So I started writing letters to the editor like in 2004, and I mean you can look them up.
Of what? Editor of what?
Oh, so like whenever there was an issue in the community or nationwide, I would write a letter to the editor, write a letter to the Abilene Reporter News,
Okay.
and they would publish it. I don't think that there's one that they haven't published. So kudos to the Abilene Reporter News. I have a lot of respect for journalists. I was a journalism major at one time, and it's a tough field right now because of social media, because they're not getting that advertising revenue that they used to get. Used to, you wanted to advertise your business, what's the first place you would go to? The newspaper.
Right.
Everybody read the paper.
Well, times have changed, and it's just like the other thing. You can't fight. You can't fight that, and everyone is on their phone. I have to tell these people not to call during the podcast, but everyone's on their phone, so it doesn't matter if it's the editor of the paper or the Yellow Pages. Whenever I talk about the Yellow Pages of the dojo, I always have to describe to everybody what it is.
Nobody knows what that is.
But we're here now. We're here on the phone. That's reality. So that's why things like podcast and social media, and that is the new television. And if you haven't caught wind of that yet, you're probably in your golden years, and you should move to Florida and enjoy that. Or you could probably realize that this is where the world is right now, and get with it, because if you really want to change things, you have to connect, like I said, with yourself and then other people. But I don't want to beat a dead horse. Some of the stuff that has been going on around town to me is an improvement. I know that a lot of people are focused on maybe nationwide matters and international matters, but locally I feel like Abilene is doing really great. Wouldn't you say that as far as the community?
Yeah, I would say that for sure. Downtown, you go downtown now, it actually feels like a city, and that was one of Mayor Williams's goals whenever he ran for mayor, and it still is a goal, because you don't want to push people out where they're moving to Jim Ned, they're moving to the Wiley area. We have so much more room to grow within the inner city. It's called, infill development. You see downtown being developed. You have all these old, dilapidated buildings down there that have improved, and now they aren't dilapidated, and that's becoming very, very contagious. We're having a downtown hotel that's coming in, and at first I was on the fence about it, but now I can see that it will work because people are investing in downtown. They're buying those buildings. You have families that are not hoarding as much property down there, which you had, a lot in the past. They're finally letting it go because they're finding that the price of real estate is going up, so they're taking advantage of selling those properties and not just hoarding them.
Plus, nobody likes to look bad in media, and
so
if you get branded as
so kudos to people like Tim Smith that put himself out there and became he took a huge risk, but he put himself out there and became one of the first people. It was either sink or swim, but he did a good job. So Tim Smith, if you're listening, kudos to you, because you were like that pioneer of downtown development. And it won't be long before we go downtown and like we could do anything. There'll be live music. There might be a tattoo shop, a nice tattoo shop. There might be there's a piano bar now on Butternut. I know that's not
There
quite
is? I didn't
downtown,
even
but
know
it's
that.
over where the old firehouse was.
Oh, wow.
But just to have a piano bar, and I think another piano bar is going to be put in downtown. But people were finally investing in the inner city Abilene versus saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to move to Tuscola, or I'm going to move to Wiley. You can only move out so far. You know, you got to reinvest in the community, and when you reinvest in the community, you reinvest with everyone. More companies want to do business here. We have a cheese factory from Wisconsin coming here. We have
Wow.
a dog food company that's already in place. We have
Wow.
an Amazon distribution center. People can talk shit about Amazon all they want, but it's going to be good jobs. There's nothing ever wrong with hard work, and that's what I've always been about, is the working class, hard work, people that do work, people that get up every day, go to work and contribute, versus just complain.
Right. Well, I want to take this break for a second to
Yeah.
talk about the March 19th Combat Jiu-Jitsu event that's going to be hosted by CJJ MMA, as well as Hef's in the Mall of Abilene, and our main sponsor right here, CC's Pizza. Very excited about those guys. If you haven't been over to CC's, tell them hello from the Jimmy Ninja group, and we're very excited to be working with those guys. A lot of people don't know you can not only go over there and hang out with the kids and get a little breather as a parent, because with their game room and stuff, and feed the kids some awesome food, but you can also get an awesome salad for yourself and eat healthy while you're there. It's one of the reasons I go there with the kids often, is there's a little something for all of us. And you know, I'm about 1.3 from 50, and I'm doing good, and part of that is that 50-50 plant-based eating. And we're going to have the very first combat jiu-jitsu event in Abilene. It's one of the things I've been very proud of is bringing a lot of firsts to Abilene. And the combat jiu-jitsu is going to be hosted by CJJ MMA. And we have Cody Halford, who represents Premier Martial Arts, will be going against Levi Golding, who represents CJJ MMA. And
That's
we're
right.
longtime allies in the martial arts game here in town. And if you're very interested in coming and getting a poster for your business or being a sponsor, let me know. You see that CC's Pizza logo there? Yeah, and also if you're interested in some quality computer work as well, you can get right here at Adrian at Radar Theory, and he will hook you up for a beautiful price for a beautiful product. And again, I want to thank Brenda too at Hef's in the Mall, because Brenda not only is the CEO of Hef's Burgers, but which is an amazing franchise itself, but she's a key proponent in bringing amazing music to Abilene.
That's right.
She's bringing amazing bands. They've expanded in the mall at Hef's, and you know, we're going to be there March 19th. I know a lot of the musicians in town and guys from out of town, big bands from out of town, come to Hef's in the Mall. So make sure you go over there and frequent them, and say hi to Coach Kim, who's over there sometimes. She's also my GM at CJJ MMA. And I just want to take that second to talk about that a little
Coach Kim
bit.
is great with the kids. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, Coach Kim was just born to teach kids and teach them this art of martial arts. And trust me, it's not easy. And I honestly don't have the patience. I don't know how she does it. But I will tell you this about the kids in wrestling and MMA. If you want your kids to become a better athlete, I think, you know, people can do what they want, whether there's off season or spending money on hitting lessons if you're in baseball or football, but getting them into an MMA program will elevate their game, will elevate their athleticism. I've seen it with my own son in baseball. In baseball, I mean, if he hadn't been in MMA for 2-3 years now, it really took his baseball game, it elevated it. Just his athleticism, the way he responds, you know, to the bat and the ball, his coordination, his focus. It's taken him to places that
Man.
I'm really impressed with.
Yeah, I get that a lot from the dads who kind of understand that, because, you know, whether it's football or baseball, or, you know, the big three, basketball. I've had even dads come to me to train their sons who are in motocross, because they wanted them to be more aggressive on the field. And what we teach is how to control that aggression. Most people can easily get mad or angry at any time, but controlling aggression is like a laser. You're learning where to focus, when to focus, how much to focus. And shout out to Devin Rodriguez and to Dion Rodriguez. Dion has a flooring company here in Abilene, and Devin is the first professional motocross rider from Abilene. And I wish I had a picture of his shell that goes on his bike, because there's a big CJJ logo with some of the other logos in town. But he's a longtime student, and his dad brought him not to me to learn self-defense, even though he knows it now. And that's always, to me, that's more important to me, because one bad self-defense situation can turn into a lifetime of trauma. So having that in your back pocket, especially if you're a female, is extremely important. And if you're a family out there that needs help with that financial assistance, we have a lot of help with that situation. And like I said, we're starting the wrestling team. We had our first week. This week was so exciting for us because we had our first authentic Brazilian gi jiu-jitsu classes at CJJ 1828 South Clack, right over there by Breakers and Bonsai. And my sensei from Brazil, Master Cunha, is a 6th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's in the line of Carlson Gracie and Alliance and Master Souza. He's a world champion himself. He also fought Vale Tudo and boxed many years. His son Krom just placed 3rd in the world championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in California. Awesome. His daughter Akimi is also international competitor, and they are just, if you are interested in the best, they are the best. I know a lot of families and high achievers, families and dads and moms that run their family want the best, and they are the best. So if you want that authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience, come on over to CJJ. His class is Monday and Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. for the adults and 5:30 Thursday for the kids. And then we also have international national wrestler and coach now, Coach Chris Hamby, who is teaching wrestling, the team wrestling, on Mondays and Wednesdays, 6:30 to 7:30 for our team youth class. My son Liam, who's 7 now and just lost his first tooth, has wrestled 7 or 8 times in the last 2 years, and it's something we're very focused on as far as our future. And like I said, at the end of the day, if they don't go to the Olympics or do something like that with it, just the lessons, the discipline, the level of excellence that they're learning. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I am a thriver and a high achiever myself, is because my parents had the smarts to put me into a great martial arts program and gymnastics program growing up.
Yeah, it's a great program.
And it became a huge blessing for me, even as an entertainer, because a lot of entertainers suffer from stage fright, and that helped me a lot and helped me to overcome it. And it took a while, but a lot of the vices I was using for many years, I've pretty much cycled them out here in this last semester of my life. And one of the reasons was because of that foundation in martial arts and gymnastics and discipline. So anyway, to get back on topic, and this is a strong subject, but I really want to touch base on it because so many people have to deal with this throughout the world. And I have very close friends, including yourself, who've dealt with suicide in the family and losses like that. And I know that you have your own story. I want to know if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll speak on it a bit. There's been years I wasn't on social media, Facebook. It was probably not on Facebook for like 8 years. I had it initially when it came out, when it was for college kids, like 2004, 2005. But, I messed with it a little bit. But for 8 years, I just didn't need it. But 2014, so my father, my hero, had a severe bout of depression that nobody could really figure out. It just almost blindsided him out of nowhere. And there's such a stigma about mental illness still to this day, even though there's been advances in getting people help. But it came to the point to where my dad just wasn't well. He was on a watch, and he was a business owner, not really sure what it was, but it was very devastating. He did die of a suicide attempt, and it really tore me up inside to where I've never really spoke about it before, but really haven't really gone public about the death of my father and what happened with him, but that's what it was. But
it really affected the family.
It did affect the family. I was I was about 34 years old at the time, and my father and I had a relationship that a lot of people don't know about because we're very different people. He was a construction guy, a builder, more of an analytical guy that could build things. I'm not a builder,
Right.
A trade. I'm more of I'd go to work with him and we'd argue about
Right.
I wasn't doing this right and doing
Right.
that right. I think the normal
Typical
father-son relationship.
Hold that light still!
Yeah, so, inevitably I'd walk off sometimes and be like, I don't want to do this, it's hot, like,
Right.
you're yelling at me. But I don't do tough love well sometimes. I want to run away sometimes from tough love. But he gave me a lot of tough love. But what I miss about him is the conversations on Sunday, the backyard barbecues, things like that. And I still dream about my father often. And you mentioned that I was a seventh generation Texan. I am on my mom's side. My mom was an American. My father was an immigrant. He came to this country with nothing, literally nothing. And when him and my mom got together, they met at a dance hall that my grandfather owned, my mother's father. It was El Charro Ballroom on Ambler, more of a Tejano type nightclub. My mom worked there, my dad came in, they met, but my grandfather didn't really like my dad, from what I'm told, because he thought, well, he's an immigrant, is he going to do
It's always
good
funny
for
to me
you?
how there's even racism within races.
Exactly.
Because I've seen that in the Asian culture, I've seen it in the black culture, I've seen it in all cultures, and it's almost maybe classism a little bit too.
Right.
It's maybe not racism really, then it's classism, possibly.
Yeah, but anyway, my dad ended up working his ass off, getting in construction, started off as a bricklayer helper, working construction crews, eventually became a master bricklayer, started a masonry company, a brick and rock stucco company, did very well for himself, but he didn't do well for himself, so my parents started a family at a young age.
Right.
I think they were like 18 and 19 when I was born.
The struggle's
so very
real.
brutally young, so I struggled with them as the oldest kid. So
that explains so much.
Yeah, so I went through those struggles of eating rice and beans, for like 5 years. I mean,
you had beans?
It's not as bad as but there were those times that
I get it.
there was like beans, rice, and like tortillas or something, and that was it.
I remember.
There wasn't even any money from McDonald's back then, or I would get these prizes from school and be like, I would get a free gift certificate to Pizza Hut, and my dad would take me to Pizza Hut.
Man.
It's the only time I would win the book club. But anyway,
it reminded me of some of that like elementary shame of like not having things. That was weird.
So I grew up a little rough. So when I was about 14,
I remember these girls in middle. I just want to tell a story about it because it's so. I remember these girls in middle school that liked me because they thought I was attractive, but they didn't like my shoes, and they came up to me. I was that man, and they were like, Jimmy, you should get some new shoes. And I was just like, these are the shoes I got.
Yeah, it starts
but
early.
it was weird that I think that might have been the first time in my head that anyone kind of brought the idea of fashion, or not just not having, but just that the way you look is important to a lot of people. And I kind of like subconsciously became a bit of a male fashionista in the most metrosexual way. Like I like to dress sharp. I like my mom even was a very big deal for her. Being an alteration master, honestly, my mom is. But that's so crazy though, because
I may need her number.
I always forget about that time because that's not my life now. Now I have several shoes, but there was times that I literally, and this happened, and this went on for years. Like my life really only has changed maybe in the last 10 years so much, on and off. But I would literally have the same pair of shoes for 10 years. It's almost like that kind of lower class mentality where you had them until they fell apart, and then you were allowed to get new shoes. But I don't know why I wanted to bring that up.
No, it starts early, I was fortunate. It's funny you say that because my mom worked at a department store, or she worked at Dillard's, and my dad was doing construction. For many years, my mom made more money than my father as a manager at Dillard's, but because she was a manager at Dillard's, like she always at least dressed me well for school, even though we were poor.
Gotcha.
And then so like that.
That's why you got that preppy Latino look.
Yeah, I guess that's where it came from, because she would come home with like Ralph Lauren shirts.
I love, man, when I was growing up, I loved
Yeah.
Hispanic people because my best friend in elementary, Scott Morales, I remember to this day, when I would go to their house, and I went, you gotta remember, I'm an Asian kid in a mixed home,
Yeah.
growing up in north side of Abilene, so I had friends of all cultures, but one of the things I loved that the Hispanic families were just so, the energy, the food, the moms doting on everybody. Like, I wanted to be Hispanic growing up. A lot of people, I totally wanted to be Hispanic growing up.
Yeah.
And everybody's culture was different. I had this friend named Paul, who they were kind of on the Johnston side, but they ended up going to Lee because the school was so close, but they were in that Johnston demographic.
Johnson was the richer school.
Yeah, and I went to his house one day to play with him, and we started doing martial arts in the backyard, and his mom's like, no, y'all can't do it. And I just can't fathom why she won't let us, like, play fight.
Yeah.
And, you early on, you start to realize how different people are,
That's
classism and demographics and culture.
That's crazy that even as elementary kids, as we were growing up, we knew that if we went to a poor school,
right,
because the other kids would boast, like, say, if I went to Lee or college, I went to College Heights growing up, but then after my 5th grade year, we moved into the Lee, neighborhood, and I went to Man, but it was like, okay, Madison was the rich school, or Cooper was the rich school back then. But as I was saying about my father, like, I was about 18 when I guess he started doing really, really well for himself. And then, like, when you're a business owner, you blow up really, really, really fast. I think any of these people can tell you, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. Elon Musk already had some seed money, so did Donald Trump. But you blow up really, really fast, and you blow up really, really fast, where when he died a millionaire. I'm not going to say he was a multimillionaire, but he did well. He died of suicide. That was traumatic, and that was a catalyst for many things, but it also made me step up and become more of a leader for my family.
Right.
I had to, because I really didn't have a choice. And there were several things now I wish I could do different as far as being that leader for my family. But everything kind of happened like boom, 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 in just such a rapid period of time that, looking back now, whenever somebody needs help with depression or anxiety,
right,
I'm always there to at least help do something, because I've been there myself. I've had my own struggles with depression and anxiety. But
I think that's one of the reasons why drugs are so prevalent in our culture, is because a lot of people are self-medicating. I know from my own depression and things I was challenged with for years. One, I did not even know I was depressed. I just was like, I had this mentality of like, just go and push and go. And no matter how I felt, the way I was raised, it was like, you go, you push, you train, you show up. And then my mentality was like that, yet inside, often I felt so empty and broken and scared and afraid. And I picked up this long habit of self-medicating. We all have our poison. Everyone's different. I don't think really one poison is worse than another, even though definitely you can have a larger impact on your body and your life if you start smoking crack over smoking green. But for me, whiskey and green helped me to maintain. I tell a lot of people that bag on drugs a lot, I'm like, yeah, they're bad, but to be honest, a lot of people, if they didn't have them, they would just die. Like, they would just kill themselves or get killed, because that's that last little thread that's helping them maintain. And I'm not saying it's good because of that. What I'm saying is that's what it is. It just is what it is. And the way you break free from that, because that's the coping mechanism, whether your thing is to crack a 6-pack every evening, or to eat 4 Whoppers, or to smoke green, or everyone wants to harp on this goes back to the inundation from the machine as far as what's bad and what's not bad, because so much of it's about control. But whatever you're using to cope, if it's not leaving you in a healthy, happy state, it's not good for you.
That's right.
And one of the reasons why I was able to kick those vices in my own life is I had that reality check of like, wow, you're healthy, you're happy. How would I know? I was smoking all day, all the time for almost 30 years. How would I know if I'm happy? I'm happy after I just smoked. Yeah. But how do I know? So I had to, for myself, I needed to know the truth. I needed to know if what I was doing in my life was truly making me happy. And if I could achieve happiness through natural means as opposed to making it artificial for myself. So I started to eliminate a lot of these vices over the last 6 years, and I've gone into discussions many times with people about how I've healed myself, which is the same method I use to help and heal other people that work with me, whether they're students, friends, clients, to help upgrade their life and upgrade their thriving. And my own dad passing, about 4 months ago, was a big proponent in that, because I watched him and my mother live two different lifestyles. My dad was high stress, always smoking cigarettes, not a big drinker, but worked very hard, military. My mother, again, worked very hard, but she had a more balanced diet because she was used to eating Thai food, so she ate a lot of Thai food all the time. She always exercised. And here's my mother, they were about the same age. Here's my mother, 77, still up and down ladders, exercises, walks every morning, still eats healthy, dances. That's one of her exercises, to dance. And my dad, he got very sedentary many years ago, where he was just sitting, watching TV, eating. My dad loves sweets. He's always eating cakes and blah, blah, blah. And I watched this, coming in and out of town. And then when my mom said, your dad's sick, and I had to come back and make sure they were okay, because in my world, even as an adult, I've learned so much in the last 10 years, but in my world, it was my mother and me, and then it became my mother and me and my sister. And she was a baby, so for a long time she didn't exist. She was just like this little bundle of love that was over here in the corner. And then it was my mother, me, and Walter, who was my stepdad, from about the time I was 6 on. And so when his passing came, it was a very, I couldn't stop fixating on it, because it was like a part of my life, and my soul was being taken out of this reality, and I didn't know what to do with it except observe it. And it really got me focused on myself a lot, and what I needed to do to improve my life as a father and as a man and as a person who's out here trying to live his best life. And I'm thankful for that gift of his passing after the mourning period that I had, because it really took me to another level of excellence that I have never achieved before in my whole life, because I noticed that I was kind of bare minimuming it most of my life. Yeah. I was gifted with all these talents and gifts, and a little bit of drive. A lot of it was coming from my parents, and not disappointing them, and not being, not wanting to make them, ashamed of me or whatever. And then after you kind of go out and decide, well, I don't want to do that anymore, I want to do this, you're like, I don't care if you're ashamed or not. But again, bare minimuming it, because that was the pattern that I had set up. And I realized that here in the last 6 months, the last year, and I really started to excel with my business and my music and my friendships, and just everything in my life started to the next level, because I was starting to see the truth of the reality and the patterns and the conditioning I was living, and starting to make a conscious decision to do better, to do more.
That's right.
To do more what needed to be done to achieve those goals and dreams that I had already decided, well, I've already done enough. You got a record deal, and you lived in New York and had a music video, you've been on movies, you fought for a world title, you've done enough. Just do the bare minimum here, take care of your kid, and realizing, wow,
you're not done yet.
There's so much more, and I'm not done yet, and I can do this on a whole nother level. But one of the reasons why I was self-medicating so much was I wasn't happy with myself and my output. I wasn't dealing with people that were frustrating me as well. And if I just smoked it away, I could just ignore it. If I just, if I didn't make that quota I was hoping to get, I could just smoke it away and it would be okay. If I wasn't getting the play and the gigs that I wanted to get, or the attention I wanted to get, I could just smoke it. If this relationship, I could just... And what I realized was I was smoking all my achievements and goals and potential accomplishments away.
Like pissing them away.
Where if I would just get focused, I had this practice where I would stop often to get the ship back on track, is what I would tell everybody. Because why? In my normal state, I was more focused. I was more frustrated with life because I couldn't ignore it. If somebody in my life, let's say an employer, somebody was causing problems with the company and making us lose money on the regular, I would just be like, oh, well, so-and-so, he'll straighten out eventually. Or, so-and-so, he just needs more training. Instead of like, hey, so-and-so, which is, when I would stop, it'd be like, yo, this is not how we do this. This is not the operating system. This is my company, not yours. It needs to be like this, or you'd probably be happier somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why my teaching and preaching now goes to this self-sufficiency of finding that internal chi, because that internal chi that was taught to me through martial arts, but took me almost 40 plus years to begin to master, was the secret. It was the real secret. And I never realized it. Why? Because it's easier to pour myself a glass of whiskey.
That's right.
It's easier to roll up a blunt. It's easier.
Yeah, you got to deal with it.
To deal with it and actually make the effort to make that change takes strength. It takes courage. It takes discipline. It takes sacrifice. And a lot of that comes from just the loss that I've experienced, the loss that you experience, and the love that is still here.
That's right. Yeah,
there's people and children and family members and new friends and old friends that are still here that I want to love. And one of the things that death has taught me over the years, and I've seen so much of it, I can't tell you how many times I've sang it, funerals and things the one message that Spirit continues to send to me every single time is that it is a reminder to live your life, because none of us are getting out of here alive. None of us are going to Lazarus our way up Jacob's ladder and just walk into the, possibly, but none of us are going to do that. So make use of the time that you're here. Everyone's like, oh man, you're so you got the
That's
podcast
right,
and the dojo and the music and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that because I want to be rich or be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I don't know if I'm going to be gone. I don't know if I'm going to drop dead of liver cancer in 2 months.
Yeah, nothing is promised.
I have got to make use of the time here and not just be productive with work and your own personal goals, but if I'm here with you, see how you're doing. When I talk to Radar, give him my genuine self when I'm talking and listening to him, or him listening to me. And that was one of my new, whatever you call it, for the 2022. And that was to be more present for people and not just focused on my grind, because I noticed that I was very, very focused on my grind because it brought me a lot of pleasure. But I also get a lot of pleasure from really connecting with people and being here for people. And I've really taken time this year. It was one of my new goals, is to really be here for people more, because I just realized I had turned myself into somebody who was a go-getter and a thriver, but I was like, I don't want to be in New York again alone. I don't want to be in LA again shooting a video, but I'm alone. I'm not there with my friends, and I was there because I had only learned to achieve these things for myself.
Yeah, and death and loss is an eye-opener.
Yeah, and you have bring me so much strength, because you've dealt with so much more, because even last year your brother was murdered here in town, and yet I've seen you many times and I've seen the hurt. I mean, you literally messaged me 2 minutes after you'd found out, and I'm like, Joey, where do we need to go? Who do we need to hurt? And you're just like, no, high road, I'm gonna do what's right, I gotta check on my family, blah blah blah. And I was so proud to watch you over this last season, because it's really been a year, because you kind of lifted you didn't allow it to spiral you picked yourself up. Talk a little bit about David's death.
So like around that time, you and I were playing music a lot with the Ninja Cowboys. We had started to pick up a little bit of steam. New Year's Eve, we were supposed to do a show at Homer's, I believe, on South First. One thing came to another. I found out about Homer's in the paper, because I read the paper digitally daily. It said Homer's is shut down. I think you messaged me right after I found that out. Like, Homer's got shut down and we couldn't perform, so our show was canceled, right?
Right.
So my brother was in town from Austin. He was in college, visiting for the holidays. He was going to actually attend the show. I let him know it was canceled, and he's like, okay, cool. So New Year's Eve, think there's a college football game on. I don't know that it was the national championship, but him and his buddies are over by ACU, watching the game. There's probably about 4 or 5 kids. My brother was 19 when he was murdered, and it was a robbery, basically gone wrong. Some kiddos that he knew. All this is pretty much public knowledge. It's in media outlets. It's in the court documents that you can get publicly. There might be some things I can't really, comment on, but for the gist of it, he was robbed in a home invasion style type attack. Unbeknownst to him, he's a college kid. My brother is very good with weapons, guns. My dad had that bond with him where they were both very good with firearms. I didn't have that so much, although I am a proponent of concealed carry, and I feel that it's absolutely necessary to be vigilant in this world that we live in. And that's where I may disagree with some people on the left about that, but I think that it's absolutely necessary, especially a minority man or a
female,
what have you, a female, because it goes back to, you just want to be prepared. Does it mean that it's going to save your life? No. But you have that extra layer of protection that if you didn't have it, it's kind of a backup plan.
Right.
That's why I think it's important to be able to. Yeah.
I think you're safer knowing jiu-jitsu, but I think both. Why not both?
Yeah, why not both?
Right.
So that's why I'm advocate of martial arts first, because like you said, things can get to the point where they come to the ground. But the way he was murdered was a very cowardly act, and I'll say that candidly, that somebody shot through the door where you can't really defend yourself in a sneak attack, and he was shot with a shotgun. I'll be graphic about it. Like, he was blown to where his upper half, there wasn't much left of him, and it's very sad. Of course, there's a lot of emotions that were running through your mind at the time. After it happened, I began to ask questions. I will give the Abilene Police Department a good job that they acted swiftly based on information that we had and camera footages from Ring doorbells and different things like that they connected the dots to and caught these kids that orchestrated the attack on my brother. And as far as the motive for the attack, it's in the court documents. Apparently, one of the females that was a getaway driver, I was trying to get bail money. They knew that my brother was in town, that he was a successful person, and that he had money, so they wanted to get after his money, and they said, quote unquote, in the court documents, I'm gonna hit a lick on this kid watching the game, chilling out with his friends, a sneak attack on a holiday, mind you, New Year's Eve. It's very cowardly to do that on New Year's Eve, to do it, period, but to knock on somebody's door. And my brother is very loose. Everybody that knew him loved him. He was a very loving figure, probably more lovable than I am, but always had his guard down a little bit. I'm one of the people that will always have my guard up a little bit, and I think that comes from my upbringing and the tough upbringing I had. He didn't have to struggle that much, so he didn't have his guard up. I grew up in a rough neighborhood where I had to fight.
know.
I had to fight.
I fought in that neighborhood quite a bit.
Sometimes I got my ass whooped. I'm not gonna lie, but it made me a better person. I think.
Did you ever ride the bus?
I did ride the bus.
Do you remember when they used to initiate you?
Yeah,
the class
you get your ass kicked. And
that happened to me at least 4 times.
Funny story is I played tennis in that neighborhood, and I played the trumpet. So here I am with my tennis racket and my trumpet,
you had a weapon with you.
getting my ass kicked as I'm going down. And and when you're the new kid in that neighborhood, nobody will let you sit with them. They're just assholes, and that's just how kids are. But it made me who I am today. But long story short, when somebody knocks on the door, you're like, okay. Yeah, but I've always been the person like, who is it? Who is it? But that's the gist of it. It was very traumatic on the family. Something obviously that sticks with you forever. But I think the mourning period, we're still in mourning, but talk to the family instead of a day of mourning on New Year's Eve, because it should be a day where you look forward to the future. But we want to make it a day of celebrating, David's life, and trials are still ongoing. There's not a whole lot I can talk about, specifically, but we're waiting for justice, and with the pandemic going on, that delays the process even further. But
how do you think, someone who's had to deal with so much personal death in their life, where does your strength come from? Because you're still, in my opinion, a successful father, a successful in your business, you're successful in you're seeking joy in life. Where does this come from that you can do this? Because I don't even know if I could. I'd be in the same place if the same things had occurred.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot because a lot of people are like, how are you so strong? How are you so this? How are you so that? They don't get to see the bad parts when I'm at home and I may be in tears, or I give a lot of creds to my family, my wife, who walked me through the whole process. But you have the song, like, Girl Like You, where the lyrics go, there are days and nights I feel like I could cry. There are days and nights I feel like I could die. Those are few and far between, but nonetheless they happen. But in going up to it, there's so many things that happened before my father's death and then my brother's murder that I did due to my own depression and anxiety. I was extremely depressed in about 2011. It just kind of hit me out of nowhere. I hated my job, number one. I was overworked, and things at home were starting to collapse. In my first marriage, I became extremely depressed, and I signed up for this meditation course. It's called Healing Through Transcendental Meditation. I was kind of at the end of my ropes. The doctors had given me an antidepressant. Things like that didn't help. It just made me feel numb to the world. I was initiated into the Transcendental Meditation program. Coming from a Catholic Christian background, I did a lot of research on it before I was initiated into the actual official Transcendental Meditation program, and saw that people from all faiths do it. Christian,
no, it's not a religion.
Judaism. Yeah, it's not a religion. It's just a practice. It's just a practice. And then the Beatles do it. There's several celebrities that do it, but that's not the reason I did it. I just found that other people practice transcendental meditation too, and I've kind of got out of the practice a little bit, which I'm going to get back into it. But you meditate 20 minutes a day, twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, ideally. If you can't get those 2 sessions in a day, just do one session of maybe 10 minutes, because in the hustle bustle world, when I first started doing it, I'd be like, oh shit, I forgot to meditate today. But meditation, that practice, just it builds over time. I really don't know how to explain it, but that's why I give a lot of creds to just Eastern philosophies. I used to be so closed-minded. If you would have mentioned meditation to me like 15 years ago, I would have never tried it. I would have never gone to New York City. I was such an introverted person. I didn't even want to talk to people. For me to just start doing things and getting out of my shell a little bit was very transformational to me. And then I did a lot of jobs, like work in the ER, where I saw people with their heads blown off come into the ER. I was a respiratory therapist for a few years. That's what I went to school for initially. So here I am, this 22-year-old kid. I wasn't practicing meditation yet, but I was in this environment where you're sitting there 1 minute and all of a sudden you get a page that, okay, gunshot wounds coming in 5 minutes. You get ready for it. Or sometimes there's no warning. Somebody comes in with their head blown off. So I've seen a lot of death. I've seen a lot of trauma. And I give creds to healthcare workers right now, because when you're in that hospital, it's a whole nother planet. The outside world almost doesn't exist. When you're working that 12-hour shift at Hendrick Medical Center, you're in all that exists there is what's going on. And mindfulness and transcendental meditation pretty much transformed my life. It's easier said than done, because when I get out of that mentality of being mindful, of being in the moment, like right here, I'm pretty in the moment right now and I feel good. But I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about what happened yesterday. I'm here with you guys, with the great Radar 3, the great Jimmy Ninja, Chai Kong, and and that's all that matters. And,
I'm also a big proponent. Mine was through martial arts, of course. I for many years practiced the fighting. It was all about the fighting. 30 different ways to do a triangle choke. But I began to be more interested in what made a martial artist a real master of himself. Sometimes I think the Western ideology or thoughts are that you're like the master and a slave. No, it's not about. It's about mastering the self, which meditation is a huge part of. I believe that Jesus meditated. I believe he prayed and he meditated. I believe that meditation is used among world-class athletes because it is effective and it works. I recently just got back from Dallas, where I did my final doctoral exam for my quantum energetic psychology and sciences.
Wow.
And I'm so proud of, because even my book, I started as I began to want to get more into I started asking the why. Why are we like this? Why is culture like this? Why am I like this? Trying to heal myself from the things that were not getting me the results I wanted out of life, and I started to make some amazing discoveries. One I want to mention now, just because you mentioned meditation, and there was a study that Dr. Joe Espinoza did over meditation and the immune system, which is why this is such a powerful comment, given the pandemic situation that's going on around the world right now, and that was that the IgA in the body, which attacks viruses and attacks foreign substances in the body, which makes you sick. When that number is diminished, you are more likely to become ill. You're more likely to be susceptible to the flu and to all the other things that go around. And one of the reasons why I have been completely free of any of these things is because I practice not only that meditation practice every day, and I'm high plant based and just overall healthy. My immune system is it's very high, but that IgA, they did a study where these people did 10-minute meditation, like you just said, for 3 days, and their IgA levels rose by over 40% in their body.
Wow.
And this was just 3 days.
Wow.
Imagine if this was a practice that most people did. But in the 3D, where most people exist, it's all about the pill. It's all about the injection. It's all about the washing and the coughing and
That's right.
I've been around everybody. I've had my kids in my face, all these seasons. But this is something that's not just this last year or two. This is something that many years.
Oh, yeah.
I got a little bit of a sinus thing when my father passed, and I knew exactly why, and I expected it because I knew that it was going to be hard to maintain that level of focus, and because we are energetic beings.
That's
this
right.
is not some spiritual mumbo jumbo talk. It has been proven by science that we give off an electrical charge.
That's right.
That we are sharing energy and with other living organisms, and that we are this transmitter in life that is picking up signals. It's why some people can know things that they shouldn't know, because we're not just in a 3D world of hearing things, the 5 senses. The other senses are real too, but you have to develop these things. For some people it's natural, some people are born into this, but a lot of people you have to train. I've noticed that my abilities have grown through training. The more I've gotten focused, the more meditation, the less toxic my body is, the more the clarity of the system is able to transduce messages. And think about a record player and all that stuff. What is it? What's putting that song on that record? It's going through a message. Where's Wi-Fi at? All these people that don't believe in the mysteries of the universe, which to many
it's
people
a transmitter. There's frequencies.
Yet you believe in your phone. Your phone works, and the Wi-Fi and the satellites and your satellite TV.
It's a
But
frequency.
you don't believe in why? Because there is a part, like I said, the they out there who want us to be at war with each other. They do not want us to be self-empowered. And one of the reasons why rich, empowered human beings think for themselves too much. They're hard to control. And if this podcast gets pulled, man, I don't care, because the people who get to hear it. But I want to close real fast. We've had an amazing conversation with an amazing person.
Yeah.
I don't know how much about the local politics we talked about, but I do think there's improvements. There's always room for improvement. I made a few videos about the streets and stuff, and one of the things I noticed a few weeks later, man, the city was out there working on them streets, and you know what? I appreciate that.
That's
Whether
right.
it was influenced or not, I appreciate that.
Yeah, on one last note, I just want to say the most important thing that people can do is vote. I see so many people complaining about city this and city that, or city council this and city council that, even if they're making videos or causing a ruckus and causing nothing but more division. There's a few folks out there, I won't name any names, but there are some people that like to stir the pot a lot. But for the most part, I think we've done great. But the elections are coming up. I believe 2 council members that are on the council have announced they're planning on running again. But they really don't ever face any good opposition, any challengers. Folks have asked me if I would run. I don't think that this is the year for me to run. I may consider it in the future. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm definitely out for this year, but it might be something I may consider later on. I know I'm on a few city boards. I'd like to continue volunteering my time to the community, being an advocate for people I feel are good people that do good things, that promote progress, promote change, promote a positive atmosphere for everybody. The goal is to be inclusive and not exclusive. Abilene has a history of being exclusive and not inclusive, but we're finally getting to a point where we're including everybody. We've got diversity on city boards. We've got good things happening, growth. So the most important thing is register to vote. It's easy. Vote in the local elections. Vote for somebody you genuinely like. People who really want to win will sit down and talk to you. If you can use this cell phone, you can vote.
None of this was planned or none of this rehearsed with you and I, but I want to put you on the spot. Who should they vote for in your opinion? Do you have a candidate you
There
like?
really hasn't been any candidates. I know that Dr. Travis Craver has announced his candidacy to run. I really genuinely like him. Another controversial person that is running is Kyle McAllister. He was in some hot water years ago for saying some derogatory things about minorities, and yet he still won. I don't really think that he's faced a quality challenger. There's even been some speculation that will he run for mayor. Whether or not he does that or not, I don't know, but I really don't want to give an opinion on who I would endorse until later on in the race. Right. But I will say that choose somebody that has a good character. Choose somebody that is like you. You have
I would say I vote regularly, even though I'm not a big believer in voting or the system. I'm really not, but I do because it's almost like a patriotic pattern that I've picked up to vote when it's time to vote. And a lot of times I don't even know a lot about the locals people. Where would I find any information about these guys?
Just go to the City of Abilene website. There's a bio on each person. They should be announcing. I believe they have to declare if you're going to run by February 6th, I believe, or sometime in February. So it'll be in the papers, and I may post once it goes out there.
Can I write your name in if I just want to vote for you regardless?
You can write my name in if you
I
want.
think everybody watching the podcast should just write Joey's name in and make it easy for him to go ahead and take this bull by the horns. That when we were a band together, my biggest criticism was that I wish he would stop being political, stop being involved with that, and focus on the music because it made us happy. But now I understand a little bit more that I've been doing my own research, that it's a calling, it's something that's in your heart. So don't shy away. If there's a calling for you to run, I think you should run. Where can everyone get a hold of you if they need to get a hold of you for more questions or queries?
You can hit me up on Facebook, Joey Devora. I'm on Instagram also. I don't know that I have a web page or anything. I also am on the board of Let Us Breathe, who has done tremendous things for the community, the African American community, Hispanic community. But it's not just a group that helps minorities. A lot of people have a misconception. It's a group that helps everyone, and that's the goal. Is any organization should be inclusive, never exclusive.
I like that.
That's the motto.
Is that kind of like a police type deal thing there?
Yeah, well, that's more of a motto that...
Did you hear that Joe Rogan comment about, and I agree with it 100%, him and Jocko, that all police should be at least the level of a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Do you understand the reasoning behind that? I do as a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, the highest ranking in town, not including Master Cunha, but
is it because you have that restraint, or you...
Well, the practice. You've trained so much in this grappling art, which is what most of the confrontations come down to, that you cannot accidentally kill people because you are so proficient. And this isn't even a black belt. This is a person in the mid-range after a few years of training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I definitely would offer our services to come and train and work with the APD because I think the best way we can affect not only this city but the rest of the country and the world is by example. So I definitely want to throw our hat into helping that and making that cost effective for the city.
I have a contact. I met Chief Dudley. He's a really, really good police chief. Very good guy. I think he might be receptive to that idea because so many police officers across different cities have killed people And is it because they killed people because of hate in their heart, or because they were nervous and in the moment they used a chokehold, or they put their knee on somebody's neck? But
or they go to the gun because they're not proficient.
Nervous,
Because I have several police officers at our dojo who are amazing, wonderful people, and what they've told me over the last couple of years is the most departments do not help them pay for these services. They are already working these 12-hour shifts. They're so exhausting. Like, so a lot of this extra training, and my thing is like, well, you're going to police academy. Why are you not learning it there? Why is it not set up for continued education? Almost anyone I know myself personally, I left school 20 plus years ago. I spend more time studying now than I did when I was in school going to classes every day. But is this not important enough? And even if Abilene is not really a market where we're having those types of issues and challenges, should we not be a model city that sets the example for the rest of the country and the world? I think so. I just love the idea.
I think that's an awesome idea.
I love the idea.
And I can help you out with that. But
and let me tell you, a lot of purple belts, like I've been jiu-jitsu my whole life. People who train jiu-jitsu are the most laid back, chill people because they know they can kill you. They're not freaked out. They don't have a chip on their shoulder. They're not worried if you're 250 pounds because they're going to put you in a heel hook and break your ankle. Better they break your ankle than shoot you with a gun and kill you.
Right.
So I love that idea. I love that my friend Joey Devora came and shared with us today. I want to leave off by letting you guys take. Radar, will you show that to everybody up close? That's my book, Eternal Energy and Information. I started that about 8 years ago. And I sold the first 100 copies already. I'm going to order some more to sell so you can get one with an autograph. But you can go to YouTube, Jimmy Ninja Chai Kong, subscribe and like this podcast and share it with everyone you know, because it's making this place, the nation, and the world better. And you can go to my YouTube channel, Jimmy Ninja Chai Kong, and type in Eternal Energy and Information and listen to it for free. And if you're a kid out there from an at-risk home or low-income home and you want to be part of our wrestling team, reach out. And if you're in charge of APD and you guys want some expert, authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instruction for APD, reach out, all right? And you guys talk this guy into running for city council.
That's right.
He needs to be repping. You don't need their affirmation. You got it. If you want to do it, man.
We'll consider it.
And the guy can play horn too, man.
The world-class Fightcast.
Hopefully you'll hear us
thank
soon.
You
World-class
guys.
Fightcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, CC's Pizza. Thank you, Brenda, over at Hefts in the Mall. Thank you, Radar Theory. Thank you, CJJ MMA, all my coaches, all the families. Happy New Year to everybody in town. Make sure you're living your best life. Lean forward into your life. We'll see you guys soon. Keep it kung fu. That's what.
I got holes in different area codes. I got white powder dripping off my nose. I've been rode hard, put up with, and I got more time. If you wanna bet on the things that change, never stay the same. And if you be a soldier in this game, you gotta swing the bat, swing the bat. You gotta swing the bat, swing the bat. Cause you strikes out the most, has the most home runs. Kids don't play with guns, cause when it's done, it's done.